I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
Anyone claiming that America's economy is in decline is peddling fiction.
I've abandoned free market principles to save the free market system.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Raising the debt ceilings does not increase our debt. It does not somehow promote profligacy.
I know words. I have the best words. Nobody knows the system better than me, which is why I alone can fix it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Peddling Fiction Podcast. I am your host, the voice and soul of so-called fiction, Johnny Profita. And back with me, struggling through some hillbilly internet issues, is Justin Hillbilly Boy Campbell. Maybe that heater you put in last week is what's messing with your internet.
I can't imagine why it would be, but I mean, no.
Hillbilly shit.
I've been having issues with this.
Got your wires crossed.
I've been having issues with this for a few weeks, and like every time I get on with customer service and complain and try to get it fixed, and then it's always a fucking runaround. It takes a week before they can actually get it fixed, and it's such fucking bullshit. And then they always have the like, will you fill out a survey at the end? Like, would you recommend this service? I was like, if there was literally anything else available here, I absolutely would not have your service. It is complete and total fucking shit. Every week I get on AT&T, Spectrum, and every other fucking internet provider and find out if maybe they've come into our area yet. And every week they have not. But the week that they do, I will drop these motherfuckers.
Have you tried calling your congressman? Because I thought there was $44 billion that was supposed to bring high-speed internet to hillbilly fucking losers just like yourself. What happened to that program?
Literally not a single one has been connected.
You could be the first house connected to the internet.
Could be, possibly.
$40 billion later.
Yeah,
Jesus
and
Christ.
Speaking of, Elon and Trump and Joe Rogan talked about that on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh yeah,
Friday.
it did come up. Yeah, yeah. So we are fresh off the weekend that saw Joe Rogan. Is this his biggest podcast so far in terms of views?
I think so. Last time I checked it, it was up over 34 million, and I mean that's just what it was on
YouTube. Yeah,
on YouTube.
Which most of the time, if I do listen to Rogan, it's on Spotify now. Let's see what's at right now. Let's see. Let's have a look. See, because yeah, it was around like 30 something million, 38 on YouTube, and they were pulling some shit too with it. So we were doing the Friday night happy hour game night live stream when the episode first dropped, and somebody was like, hey, the episode's out. And so I go into YouTube to pull it up and it's not there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't see it on YouTube. I don't see it on Twitter. I don't see it on Spotify. And it might've been Magoo who was, he's like, oh, you have to go to Rogan's YouTube page, click podcasts, and then click like the first icon that you see, just like a generic Joe Rogan icon that had, it was 2 hours and 58 minutes or something, but it didn't say like Joe Rogan Trump interview or like nothing about Trump. It just said like Joe Rogan experience. It was completely generic. And then Joe Rogan comes out, I guess the next day, to be like, no, like there was an issue. We tried to load them to Spotify and YouTube at the same time, and Spotify had an issue or something, so we held it back. Something along those lines. But then they started pulling more shady shit. When you go to search for it, it wasn't coming up for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, so then Rogan just put he just put a link straight on all of his social media, going straight to it, so you don't have to try to search for it. And it wasn't. So there are weird things with YouTube when you try to search for certain things using certain keywords. And that's kind of what it was. Like if you just searched Joe Rogan podcast, it would bring it up and it would take you to the most recent episode. But if you were searching Joe Rogan Trump, then it brought up all kinds of other stuff. Like it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of like the way that social media manipulates search results based on the things you type in. If you type things in the right way, then it will take you straight to what you want. But if you don't, then you're going to get a lot of runaround because they're trying to get you to watch other stuff. Like they're trying to get you to look at these other things so that you'll see the ads and all. Like it's a lot of fucking.
Yeah, well, and there was, I mean, I'm sure, Trump has come up on the Joe Rogan. The topic of Trump has come up on Joe Rogan like a bajillion times or something. So those things have more views and they're like, oh, maybe you want to see this video or something. That kind of makes sense. I didn't, other than when the episode first dropped, I thought that was the shadiest shit. I didn't have problems finding it after that. And even I was watching a completely unrelated YouTube video. I just had it on. I was like cooking something yesterday. And, the video finished. Which one? I don't even remember which one I was watching, but like it just went right into the Trump Rogan thing. Like it just put it on. So I don't know. I didn't experience any weird issues except for when the episode first dropped. I thought that was weird, but I don't know. Joe Rogan says otherwise. I thought overall it was fine. Relatively entertaining. I mean, I don't know how much more, like Trump does so many things, like so many events and everything. And he's done, 3 or 4 podcasts now. There's nothing that he's really going to say that I'm not used to hearing. But I thought, he did the full 3 hours with Rogan. I don't know a lot of politicians that could get through that without having at least a couple of like bad moments.
Yeah, and
I didn't think he really had.
Yeah, he didn't have any bad moments. He rambled and did the weave and everything, but I mean that's to be expected. Like that's how Trump talks. So that wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Did you see where Rogan is still trying to get Kamala Harris to come on? Apparently, JD Vance is going to be going on sometime this week, but so Rogan was trying to get Kamala Harris to come on, and her team said they would do an hour, and he had to come to her. They weren't going to go to his studio.
Let me pull that because I pulled up the tweet because I thought that was very telling, and then of course the reaction you get to it from the left, which is didn't I send it to you? This one I did. Yeah. Okay. Right here. So this is after Joe Rogan put out a tweet being like, hey, if anybody's having issues trying to find the episode, here it is. And then the next post was also for the record, the Harris campaign has not passed on doing the podcast. They offered a date for Tuesday, which is today, but I would have to travel to her and they only wanted to do an hour. I strongly feel the best way to do this is in the studio in Austin. My sincere wish is to just have a nice conversation and get to know her as a human being. I really hope we can make it happen. And perfectly reasonable, dude. It's the Joe Rogan experience. He's not, he doesn't work for like NBC or something. This isn't an interview. Everyone's like, oh, he should feel blessed. And where's the respect for the vice president? And she's busy. She's got this really hectic schedule. It's a week before the elections and like he should just hop on any plane and get to her just so that she could talk. And she only wants to do an hour. She couldn't get through an hour, dude. And what's the longest she's done so far? An actual, like one of the interviews on CBS or something, 28 minutes.
Right. She was supposed to do 45 minutes with I think it was like 45 minutes to an hour with the Fox guy. And then she showed up 30 minutes late, and then her team was like hurrying him that he needed to wrap up. That like they only gave.
Yeah, this is the shit that you pull. These are all fucking tactics, dude. Because she cannot do even remotely okay in an interview. And remember, they sliced out like 20 minutes of I forget the first interview she did with Dana Bash. They took out half of that. There's no way she could even get through an hour with Rogan. She knows it. Her fucking team knows it. And so they pull this shit where it's like, oh yeah, no, we'd love to do Joe Rogan, but hey, we have a really busy schedule. We can get you an hour, but you got to come to us and do it on our turn. That's their way of not officially turning down the Rogan podcast. They'd be like, hey, we wanted to do it. We were all set to do it. We gave him Tuesday, but he just couldn't make it work, or he wouldn't come to us. So they get this it's almost like plausible deniability or something, where they're just like, hey, we tried to do it. We really wanted to. We were going to put him on a plane over here, and he just wouldn't do it. So we accepted. Joe Rogan turned us down, actually. And so then they get credit for not turning down the interview, but they actually don't have to do the podcast. I think that's what's going on here. And that's why they show up 30 minutes late to an hour-long thing, because then she only has to do 30 minutes. Blame it on fucking traffic, whatever. Like these are all shenanigans that they're trying to pull, because she could never. Dude, could you imagine what do you think the viewership would be? Even if, so I think odds are this is going to get to 40 million pretty soon. It's at 38 million. So if she did 20 million, like that would be a monster podcast, but it's still only half of what Trump got. And
how many of that 20 million are watching it just to see how bad she is? Or like, I don't think Rogan would get that kind of hate, but like this is the kind of stuff that she gets regularly on podcasts and shows that she goes on. This is her appearance on Shannon Sharp's show. It gets 32,000 likes, 73,000 downvotes, 73,000 dislikes. Like, and
yeah, that's a bad ratio right there.
Have you seen the clips from that? That might have been her worst interview yet, and that was like super duper friendly. Like Shannon Sharp could not have been less pushing her on issues and stuff. And I mean, she just talked herself into a fucking hole. Like she was talking about how Trump was gonna do away with the First and Second Amendment. She repeated herself, like she did her what can be unburdened by what has been thing. Like like multiple really times over very short periods of time. Like it was bad.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's nothing. That's the thing. Like their entire campaign, and her as a person, it's all just platitude. It's bumper sticker shit. Like you can't do a long form podcast with the rhetoric that they use, because you have these inflammatory statements that you make. Trump's gonna put us in internment camps or something. And so then Joe Rogan would just be like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Like scratch the surface a little bit. And the whole thing just become like, you just get to see how ridiculous of a statement that is. But if you just say that, and then right after that, you say something else inflammatory, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, and people are just kind of cheering and there's no pushback. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that works at like a rally. It's not going to work on the Joe Rogan podcast. And I thought he did a pretty good job of like asking Trump some questions and trying to get a little more detail out of Trump, because Trump just, everything's great, tremendous, beautiful. We had a great economy. And then he would push back a little bit and try to get him to sort of drill down on some of the issues that he thought were important. But yeah, I don't know. All in all, I liked the episode. I think Trump did a pretty good job. Like, he had some funny moments. He definitely had some like Trumpian moments in there. And then the questions that like could have tied him up, he was able to just sort of, Trump his way through that. Again, the thing with the tariffs and the taxes, I thought that was a big opportunity, because, he mentioned that Kamala Harris stole his no tax on tips. And then, he's also got the no taxes on, was it Social Security, no taxes for like police and fire. And,
no taxes on overtime is one of the things. That was another thing from the Shannon Sharp episode. She said, Donald Trump is going to make you work overtime without getting paid. Donald Trump said he wanted to do away with taxes on overtime. How does that equate to overtime without getting paid?
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought it was a great opportunity for him to just talk about how brutal taxes are. Instead, he's just like, yes, we'll just use tariffs. And I mean, if it's between the two, I think economically the argument for tariffs is a lot stronger than the income tax.
And he did do a good job on that front with the tariffs of talking about 1880s, 1890s, how things used to be done. And then he talked about the creation of the income tax and how that he did a good job with the explanation of it.
He did a decent. I would have liked. It's always like when he does something that's like pretty good, I'm like, dude, you were so close to just like fucking crushing it. Because what did the federal government look like in the 1880s and the 1890s? And I think he should have tied that to, he's like, we're going to have this, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. We're going to we can fund this thing with tariffs. But the whole point is government can't be this big Leviathan thing. Government needs to be much, much smaller. And then we can fund the whole thing with tariffs and you get to keep your entire fucking paycheck. How about that? And he did a pretty good job with that. I would have liked a little more from him on that. But yeah, overall, I thought he did. I mean, I kept seeing these people, oh, this is an unmitigated disaster. This is the worst interview I've ever seen. It's just like, dude, I don't know, these like Twitter paid influence or something. It's just so pathetic, man. I don't know who is convinced by any of this.
The paid influencers are the worst. It's it's rough. I was gonna say, speaking of, I thought we had. Oh, it may not be a paid influencer, but it's a Kamala fan.
A shill.
With as bad as it's a shill.
This is great.
With as bad as things have been going, now they're offering up the Kamala supporter outlines survival guide for if Trump wins.
Yeah, I thought this was. I only got through a couple of his points. I thought we could go through the survival guide and see, what we need to do just in case Donald Trump pulls off the impossible. The first one's great. Keep your mouth shut. Don't let them know that you have a Democratic opinion. I was like, dude, you're putting this video out on Twitter.
Also, welcome to the life of anybody just like even remotely right of insane progressive for the last 10 years. Like, if you didn't share all of the opinions of the woke mob, then you had to keep your mouth shut. Like, you don't say anything.
Yeah, and we weren't like they're going to put us in camps, even though there were some politicians that would talk about like re-education or something, that like they'd have these dog whistles, so to speak. But yeah, this is like, if you don't let anybody know you're part of the trans community or an immigrant or left-leaning in general, because they're fishing for information to round you up.
I don't know how that first part's going to work. Like, if you're part of the trans community, we know. Like, you may think that you're passing, but we know.
Yeah, your 5 o'clock shadow gives it away. Should we play the clip here? You want to play that?
Yeah.
From the horse's mouth.
Scenario: Trump gets reelected. Here is the game plan if that happens. The general rule of thumb from now on is: will the MAGA heads use it to attack someone? If so, keep your mouth shut. You no longer know that any of your trans friends are trans. You no longer know that any of your non-Christian friends are non-Christian. You no longer know that any of your friends, family, or neighbors are left-leaning at all. Anyone that you don't know tries to talk about politics around you, you shut that shit down immediately because that is fishing for information and people they can report. Anyone tries to instigate a protest or a riot, they are also fishing for people that they can report. Anyone you know who is an immigrant, you are now going to tell anyone who asks that they have been living in America their whole lives. Because if you are not among the people who need to flee for their own safety, you are part of the people who are helping them flee. You do not brag about the people you have helped. You do not tell others about the people you have helped. You keep your mouth shut about all of it on every single possible forum. Anyone asks you about politics, you reply, "Who has time to talk about politics?" and nothing else. Someone asks you your opinion on global warming. You say, "I don't talk about politics." Someone asks your opinion on wages and unionization. You say, "I don't talk about politics." Someone asks about your opinion on basic rights of other people. You say, "I don't talk about politics. It's gonna hurt, but that's what's gonna help you and others survive." These are the basic ground rules for surviving a fascist government, which is 100% what Donald Trump has said on camera he wants to put in place if he gets reelected. I am not trying to tell you that he is guaranteed to win. I am not going to tell you that he is going to successfully overthrow the government. I am telling you these are the things that are going to happen if he somehow does wind up back in the White House and what you need to do to prepare. And finally, you may not like it, but get yourself firearms training, firearms safety training, and stay strapped. Because worst comes to worst, you also need to be able to defend yourself. And the Second Amendment is probably the only constitutional right that Donald Trump will not do away with. Probably most importantly, if he does get elected and you talk about your personal politics anywhere on social media, you need to delete that account in its entirety immediately. There will still be archived evidence of it, but at the very least, they can't go into a profile that you are still using and say that those are still your views, which can be the difference between walking free and being in a camp.
Okay. Dude.
These people are straight up fucking unhinged. Oh my gosh. I hope all of that is right. I hope he's 100% right. I hope all of the left stops doing all of those things he said to stop doing. I hope we're putting them in camps. I'm like, if the second Trump administration is even a quarter as bad as what this guy and the rest of the left imagine it's going to be, it'll be spectacular. Holy shit.
Look, I mean, the only thing that I could possibly see like hardcore MAGA people doing would be reporting an illegal immigrant that they came across. I could see them doing that. Short of that, they don't care about like your political, like they'll get into like an argument or something with you over your stupid political views, but they're not. What are they going to do? They're going to call the government and be like, "Hey, this guy, he supports transgender." And what? Okay. Yeah. That's like, that's every major institution has come on board with that. That's not going anywhere. There's not going to be any repercussions for holding those views. The only thing is like, yeah, you won't be able to beat the other people over the head, metaphorically speaking, for not holding those views. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, yeah, now we don't have to, I don't have to hide my feelings. Joe or, Cubicle Carl doesn't have to hide his feelings about DEI or something if Donald Trump gets elected. But it's not going to go 180 degrees the other way. And it's like, oh, you support DEI? Donald Trump's against DEI. You're fired. What?
Yeah.
Round them up and to put them in. They'll go fishing on fishing expeditions to find people that are Democrats.
It's completely insane and unhinged. And I wonder where they get these kinds of ideas. I don't know. Could it come from like fucking MSNBC?
Jamboree happening right now. You see it there on your screen. In that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden and so pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, "Instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he called enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
Thank you, MSNBC, for that
Yeah.
beautiful piece of
This was, dude, I mean, I know the last episode was derangement reaching all-time highs. It's still, there's no pullback here. They have gone to a level of insane, like they did revert back to factory settings on Donald Trump, where it's just like they tried joy, then they tried like, you know, brat girl summer or something. Like I don't even know what that is, but they were doing that stuff. And then, you know, the Tim Walz, the coach, all this blah 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 blah. And then it's just like, hey, I got this great idea. Has anybody tried to call Donald Trump Hitler or fascist? Maybe we should try that. The 10 millionth time you call him that, that's really gonna be the fucking kicker here. But this was like Madison Square Garden, dude. Just because he's holding a rally at a place that once held a rally for a Nazi rally, that makes him a Nazi. So I took the liberty. I'm gonna grab the controls here. I'm gonna share the screen because I need to know what other Nazi rallies we have upcoming at Madison Square Garden. Today, Kelsey Ballerini, one night only Nazi rally. Then we have Cyndi Lauper.
Cyndi Lauper is 100% a Nazi rally. Don't let
Girls Just Want to Have Fun farewell tour.
That's totally a Nazi rally.
Look at all these Nazis we got coming up on the 30th. I mean, does Cyndi not know that, almost 100 years ago, Nazis had a rally there?
Did you see the thing where people were sharing like Bill Clinton doing a rally in Madison Square Garden back in the 90s?
It's great, dude. Yeah, it reminded me of like a few months ago. Donald Trump was somewhere where there was like a Klan meeting or whatever in the town. I forget where it was, like somewhere in Pennsylvania, maybe. I have no idea. But they were like, somebody from the corporate press was like, hey, this town had a Klan meeting like 35 years ago or something. And he's like, where was Joe Biden 2 weeks ago campaigning? And they're like, here. Thank you very much. And then he just walks off onto his plane or something like that. It's just like, dude, this is nothing. They don't even have good maybe they've exhausted all their examples of Donald Trump being literally Hitler, but this is like the flimsiest one I've ever seen. Hey, dude, Madison Square Garden, where they have a basketball game every 2-3 times a week there, concerts. None of that stuff is ever associated with. Here we go. The Rangers are playing the Senators November 1st at a hockey game.
Well, a hockey game is definitely a white. The hockey game is definitely a white supremacy rally.
Yeah, Leon Bridges. We got Corey Holcomb, the Joke King Tour. Look at this. Look at all these fucking Nazis, man.
Speaking of jokes, we want to talk about the Puerto Rico joke.
Yeah, sure. So this was at Madison Square Garden. He had Tony Hinchcliffe, the comedian, do some stand-up routine. Now, I haven't seen a lot of this guy's comedy. I know he's got a huge show that he does at Madison Square Garden, the Kill Tony podcast. It's like a massive success. The only parts of that I've seen is like when Shane Gillis does his Donald Trump impression, which is like he's better at being Donald Trump than Donald Trump is.
It's a roast. I mean, it's a roast. Every Kill Tony is a roast to some extent.
Okay.
He did the big roast of Tom Brady on Netflix. Like this is what he does. He's a edgy comedian type that Jon Stewart actually covers it pretty well. This is a pretty good clip talking about it from the Daily Show.
Raise the alarms.
The opening act, grabbing headlines for all the wrong reasons. A comedian who offered unfunny, racist, cringeworthy jokes.
Basically calling Puerto Ricans trash.
The most repulsive racial jokes about Latinos.
Disgusting and hateful.
So incredibly crude.
Frankly, just too X-rated to play here.
Extremely vile so-called jokes.
Extremely vile so-called jokes. She name-checked my comedy album from the 90s. Did I really? I don't know who's AI, and you're that guy. Now, obviously, in retrospect, having a roast comedian come to a political rally a week before Election Day and roasting a key voting demographic, probably not the best decision by the campaign politically. But to be fair, the guy's really just doing what he does. I mean, here he is at the Tom Brady roast a few months ago.
The great Jeff Ross, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff is so Jewish, he only watches football for the coin toss. Gronk, you look like the Nazi that kept burning himself on the ovens. Kevin is so small that when his ancestors picked cotton, they called it deadlifting.
Yes, of course. Terrible blue, yes. There's something wrong with me. I find that guy very funny. So, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, bringing him to a rally and have him not do roast jokes, that'd be like bringing Beyonce to a rally and not have...
Which that leads into, like, Trump does Rogan, and then to compete with Trump doing Rogan, Kamala Harris was having a rally in Houston, and so they've been like building this up. Beyonce is going to be performing at this rally in Houston. Beyonce is going to be performing in Houston. Beyonce and Kelly Rowland show up. Kelly Rowland looks like she got dressed by your favorite former mayor, Beetlejuice. What's her name? Lori Lightfoot.
Lori Lightfoot, yeah.
Yeah, she's wearing like the big boxy suit and everything and looked pretty terrifying. So like Kelly Rowland and Beyonce come out on stage and talk for like 3 minutes and then they just leave. Like Kamala comes out and they all shake hands and they leave. And the crowd was pissed. Like there were people just walking out because it built it up that you're coming to a Beyonce concert.
Beyonce concert, right.
And yeah,
I heard about that. Yeah, that's, but you know they got the photo or the video of the crowd. Be like, oh my God, look at the turnout for Kamala Harris! All this enthusiasm. You got bamboozled by a fucking shady politician. Congratulations. Yeah, I mean, but with the joke thing, it's just, I just didn't find those jokes very funny. I guess the one with Mexicans coming inside. Just like they came into our country. That was kind of funny. The Puerto Rican thing, I just didn't get it. And then somebody was saying that, I guess in the news, that Puerto Rico's having trouble with garbage in the ocean or something. So there's actually like there's a news story behind it that I was not familiar with. But I mean, I thought it was kind of an unforced error for the Trump campaign, even though obviously I'm not offended by any of those jokes, but you just gave them unnecessary ammo, I guess, for them to just be like, oh my God, Nazi, like you were going to kind of win it when they were just calling it the Nazi rally because it was just so obviously not a Nazi rally. But then when you start telling them racist jokes, that gives them like, see, look, this guy just ripped on all the Puerto Ricans.
Okay. I get it. You could tell that the set that he did was toned down. Like it was trying to not be as offensive as he normally is. If you watch the Tom Brady roast, he just lit everybody up for like 10 straight minutes. This was very toned down. It was very bland for what he does. But like, I get it. You're coming into the final week leading up to the election. You want to make the big push. Kill Tony is a huge show. Very, very popular. Like everybody knows what Kill Tony is. And he as a comedian has become very popular as well. You had him. You had Dr. Phil. you had Hulk Hogan. Like it was a big event. It was like I get it. Yes, it's not the right kind of comedy for that crowd, and so it kind of it's a swing and a miss, but it's also a cool moment. They say so. Apparently his son Barron has been like giving Trump some advice on stuff during all of this, because like Barron's into all the podcasts and all the social media stuff, and so he's so that probably and I'm sure Barron had something to do with oh shoot, what was the one we talked about?
Theo Von?
Yeah, well, Theo Von, and then
oh shit, yeah, what's it called? Flagrant.
Yeah. So I'm sure Barron had some influence on him going on some of these different shows and stuff, and I'm sure that was probably like, oh, if you can get Kill Tony, that'd be awesome, and that would.
It is pretty cool. Yeah, I get it. It's just the way that it was gonna play, and you know what the media is gonna do with it. I probably wouldn't have opened myself up to just 3 days of them just being like, "Oh my God, look at how mean he is to Puerto Rican."
The way they latched onto the Puerto Rico thing, like it was the most like one-off, just running, flyby joke.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the phony outrage is infuriating. Like, it just, nobody really cares that much. But it's just, yeah, I wouldn't have given them the opportunity to get phony outraged about jokes that somebody was telling at my rally. I wouldn't want to give them anything, any kind of ammunition like that they can use and manipulate and overblow to try to fucking sway things. I don't know. But yeah, I think if Donald Trump was smart, he should have done Kill Tony with like Shane Gillis there as Trump, and Trump would have been like the fucking funniest thing ever. Yeah. So like, I didn't know about this story, so I didn't really understand the joke. I was just like, yeah, it's just not a funny joke. It just didn't make me laugh. So yeah, had I known about this, it would have been like, okay, yeah, that yeah. So now it made a little more sense after I found out like the context of it. So yeah, it's even more like less offensive than they're making it out to be. But yeah, I hate when people get all high and mighty, pearl clutching about some jokes that were being told. When he also just makes fun of everybody. It's not like he just picked on Puerto Ricans or something. So yeah, but with the Trump, like, I don't know, man, it doesn't look like the people that are into Kill Tony and stuff like that. Like, I think Donald Trump's won them over. I think they're ready to rock. I think they're ready to vote. I don't know if you want to use this rally like a week before to maybe try to get somebody, maybe try to get some more women or something to vote for you, because women seem to be going for Kamala Harris overwhelmingly. And this just didn't seem like they were even trying to reach to the people that maybe they could bring over. It was just kind of like a bro fest, which, that's fine. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, it's still a better look to have these fun rallies where you have comedians, you're telling jokes, Trump's dancing around looking like he's jerking off two guys simultaneously. And it's just a better look than the Kamala Harris rallies where they're just like, he's going to put you in camps, he's going to round you up, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Like, come on, be angry and be scared. It just doesn't, it looks a lot more desperate than what the Trump campaign seems to be coming off as. So yeah, I don't know, man. This is the strongest I've kind of felt since Donald Trump started running for the presidency, going back to 2016, that like he should run away with this thing. It just kind of feels like that. He's like he's hitting his stride. He's on the upswing. Kamala Harris has been imploding for the last 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, Trump knows how to work a crowd. Kamala knows how to shut a crowd down completely.
This might be our worst moment. Here, wait. Let me play it because your internet's like choppy.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not gonna make any sense if it's gonna be like that. Let me see if I can. I got this one here. Yeah.
Sorry, it comes and goes.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Hang on.
Okay, now I want each of you to shout your own name. Do that. Because it's about all of us. It's about all of us. And listen, I have fought my whole career to put the people first.
Okay. Dude, that was. I almost thought that might have been edited. It was so just perfect. They're chanting Kamala over and over and over again for like 30 seconds. And then she says, now everybody chant your name. And 50,000 people immediately just shut up on command and just kind of sit there like, what? That's retarded. They all just called her retarded without saying the word. And then she goes into the awkward cackle. It's perfect, dude. That was, if I could sum up Kamala Harris campaign in one 30-second clip, it would be that. It would be a bunch of phony, fabricated enthusiasm, and then her just shitting the bed completely. By far, that might be her. I don't know. Was that her most awkward moment?
That or the I know you've got the clip of her and Gretchen Whitmer at the bar.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched this one yet.
That might be as bad. Like, pull that up.
Okay, yeah, I'll get that going. Yeah, sure. And it's this one. Okay.
Oh, no.
What are you having, Madam Vice President?
I'm having what she's having.
Okay.
It's an Oberon, and it's made right here in Kalamazoo, which many are calling Kamalazoo. Yeah. Okay, cheers. Great rally. Good. And I mean, it's and you know what I've taken the yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I hadn't seen that, but she doesn't even take a sip of the beer.
I think.
Stop trying to drink beer. You're not a beer drinker. She even says it. She's like, aren't you more of a wine girl? Embrace that. Rip some fucking shard. Well, so she's like, she doesn't even know what kind of beer she's getting, which is why she told the corny joke, I'm having what she's having. She doesn't know what it is. And she took like a little nip, like a thimbleful, maybe, if that. She like put her lips to the glass and then put it down. Oh God, it's just so fucking phony, man. I don't understand.
They're trying to make her appeal to like the everyman, the younger male demographic that they've been completely losing out on. And then like at the end of that clip, they like both pull back and they're like, oh, there's cameras, like they can see us, they can hear us. Except that if you go to like the wide shot, like there are pictures of the wide shot, like the booms for the fucking mics are right over their head. There are people with cameras all around them. Like you can't pretend that, oh, I didn't know y'all were standing there. Like
there's like four people on the other side of the bar, like at bar level with cameras, like right in their face. And it's just, I get how that would be. Yeah, that would make me pretty uncomfortable too. But all the more reason to just be yourself. Just try to be yourself. It reminds me of if you've ever been in like the wedding party, you know, where you have to like, they stage all these fucking photos. And so they're just like, walk this way and pretend like you're having a funny conversation with the chick that you're with. Like, I hate shit like that. Like every single one of these she does reminds me of that. And I hate every fucking second of it. And this is just, it's just god awful. You already have a reputation for being a phony baloney. Drink a glass of wine. Nobody thinks you're drinking beer. Nobody thinks you like beer. And by the way, like, I don't like seeing women drink a lot of beer. I find it very off-putting. It's not very ladylike to be slamming fucking, like, I don't even know what that was, but yeah, I don't know, probably like an IPA or some shit. But just like, I don't want to see you drinking like 12 beers. Polish off a bottle of wine. Be a lady.
I'm sure she probably did more than one of those later on after they left the bar. Well, okay, so what was more fake and disingenuous? Kamala Harris and Gretchen Whitmer at the bar, or Tim Walz and AOC playing Madden? Did you see the clips of that?
Dude, I didn't. I think I saw the post on Twitter and I just couldn't bring myself to click on it. If you got it though, we can let it rip.
I don't have the.
I saw Tim Walz is like, AOC can call audibles or something, and he's like,
yeah, he said AOC runs a mean pick six, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
can call an audible. It's like, dude, did you ever fucking like even get anywhere near a football field? Like, what the hell? Run a mean pick six? And he said, if you can punt in Madden, you can vote. Like, dude, nobody punts in Madden. Like, that's, if you're not going for it on fourth down every time in Madden, you're a spineless fucking pussy. Who punts in Madden? And I mean, I guess that checks out for Tim Walz. They were tied 0-0 at the end of the first quarter while they're talking about Project 2025. Like, whoever gets to the end of the first quarter and is tied 0-0 in fucking Madden, like, what are you doing?
yeah, well, dude, if AOC picked me off, well, he said pick six was so she hadn't even accomplished that.
No, nobody had scored at the.
Yeah, okay, but like, even if somehow she managed to pick me off, oh my god, that'd just be humiliating. Absolutely humiliating. I haven't played Madden in several I might punt it if it's like 4th and 20 or something. But I'm a Bears guy, so it's like, yeah, dude, we should be punting on first down.
Being a Bears fan, you're predisposed to punting anyway, so it's okay.
Yes. We punt and then we play fucking D. Hopefully, get a turnover that way, and maybe a field goal.
I did a fantasy league several years ago. There was one of those like all-in leagues where you pick your entire team. Like, you pick your offensive lineman, you pick your defensive line, like you pick the entire team, and like linemen get graded on different stuff, and the defense gets graded on different things. Like, the scoring on it was fucking insane. But I was like, I got the secret weapon, and I'm gonna win this league. I'm taking the Bears punter. We're gonna get all the punting yards all year long. He actually was like one of my top scorers. For the way punting was scored, like he put up massive points every fucking game. It was incredible.
What year was this?
God, it was 09 or 10, somewhere in there.
Yeah, Patrick Maynard. Is that who it was?
I think it was.
Trying to think of who the Bears punter was back then. Yeah, we had a lot of good years with him. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see that clip. It sounds like it's probably worse than the Gretchen Whitmore thing. By Gretchen Whitmore standards, that wasn't that cringy. Like, she wasn't feeding a Dorito as a Eucharist to like some cosplay chick on her knees.
God, that somebody discovered a kink on that. Like, that's the problem. That's the problem with like leftist videos, is they're always terrible, but like, somebody saw this and they're like, "Ooh, I never knew I was into that, but now I am." For instance, the AOC and Tim Walz playing Madden. Now there are a bunch of people that are speculating AOC is pregnant. Did you? So
I saw that. Yeah, because would she put on a little weight or something?
Well, yeah, she looks a little more chesty. She looks a little more flush in the face. She kind of. I didn't think of it initially, but whenever people started saying it, And I started to look. I was like, yeah. I remember what my ex looked like whenever she got pregnant for the first time and started to put on a little bit of the weight in the right places and get that kind of glow in her cheeks. And it's like, yeah, makes sense once you start to look at it. I don't know. It was crazy to see some of the posts about that, where some people are like, how insane is it that if she is pregnant, she almost has to hide it from her own party because they'd be demanding that she abort it just to
right, just to prove a point or something.
It's like, I mean, and yeah, like they would 100% put her at the sacrificial altar and be like, yeah, for women's rights, for our body autonomy, you got to abort your baby. Like,
yeah,
I could.
Yeah, if she did, she'd have to like be very proud of it. Yeah, I'm surprised there aren't more like cuckold jokes going on about it.
Have you seen the pictures of her boyfriend? He might be one of, if not the least impressive specimens I've ever seen in my life.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're, the bull in the relationship might have let one slip past the goalie. I don't know. Shit. Oh man.
And the problem with that is, if one of them slips past the goalie in that scenario, you can't deport them. But there are some solutions for deportation.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if it's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price put on national security? Is that worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
Oh man, who was that? I didn't recognize that guy.
I'm not sure. This was a 60 Minutes interview. I know she was not prepared for that answer.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, you did send the whole family back. I guess the point being that, well, the kids were born here, so technically they have citizenship. It's like, yeah, but
fuck that.
Yeah, well, it's like how you kind of like there's that theory where it's like, okay, yeah, but until they're 18 or whatever, you're just kind of holding their rights in escrow. Where it's like, dude, yeah, if they were self-sufficient, then they could, but if they have to like go into the system or something, and then the taxpayer has to foot the bill because their parents were here illegally, I don't know. Maybe you do deport the whole family. But Donald Trump's going to go door to door, make sure there are no more illegals here. And if you have any deeply held democratic beliefs, know that you'll be in an internment camp facing the gas chamber, no doubt.
Oh, he was Trump's head of ICE whenever Trump was in office the first time around.
Was he the one that like embarrassed AOC when she was trying to grill him?
Yeah.
About asylum seekers?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I knew it. Like he looked kind of familiar, but I don't know who he is.
Thomas Homan. He definitely should be in charge of the deportations once Trump gets elected.
Yeah, he fucking embarrassed AOC. That was great. AOC just has that like she's just so dumb and so confident in her positions, and she's like, "Well, what about asylum seekers?" Blah blah blah. He's like, "If they were going to be asylum seekers, they have to go through like a port of entry legally and declare." It's not what we're talking about here. Something along those lines. It was pretty great.
Right. Yeah, he's a sharp dude. Speaking of sharp dudes, did I already mention? We said JD Vance is going to be doing Rogan. That'll be tomorrow. Is when Vance will be on Rogan. So
he's going to do better than Trump did, I think. JD Vance is really good at interviews.
Speaking of, there are a couple clips. One from him on CNN, just absolutely destroying Jake Tapper, and then another of him on Meet the Press, where he crushed. Like I think he'll do really good on Rogan. I don't think it'll be as necessarily entertaining as what Trump was, but JD Vance is incredibly smart, and
yeah, he's gonna give like better detailed answers to questions that that Rogan's going to ask. Like he's just going to come across as like a smart, sharp guy, knows his stuff, a normal person, despite how they kept trying to say how weird he was. Yeah, like every time I've seen him do an interview, I'm like, dude, this is like we're literally looking at the juxtaposition between him and Walz is like the guy that succeeded in life based on merit, and then the guy that would just like somehow like fumbled his way into some sort of level of success.
And Vance, like every time he does one of these interviews, it's like a master class on how to handle these mainstream interviewers. So let's check this one out.
Yeah, is he gonna rope a doper? Likes to rope
a little bit, yes.
We learned that China was behind a broad hacking campaign, targeting the phones of both presidential campaigns, highlighting the threat that China poses to this country. And yet Donald Trump recently called his domestic political opponents, quote, the enemy from within, and said they are more dangerous than Russia and China.
I love his face.
Do you believe that people like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi are more dangerous than Russia and China?
Well, I think what Donald Trump said is that those folks pose a greater threat to United States' peace and security because America is strong enough to stand up to any foreign adversary.
Do you agree with him? Did they pose a larger threat to the United States than Russia and China?
What he said, and I do agree with this, what he said is that the biggest threat we have in our country, it's not a foreign adversary because we can handle these guys. We can handle foreign conflicts. We can't handle. Look, under Nancy Pelosi's long life in public leadership, the United States has gone from the preeminent industrial power of the world to second next to China. That fundamentally belongs on Nancy Pelosi's shoulders. And if we're going to have a more prosperous country, we've got to recognize our own leadership is why we lost our industrial base to China. Our own leadership is failing to lead this country into peace and prosperity. And of course, Kamala Harris, look, when I look at the biggest threats to America, Kristen, I think the fact that people can't afford groceries, the fact that we can't meet our recruitment goals in the military, the fact that Americans have a wide open southern border, that's a way bigger threat than any foreign threat. And yes, it's caused by broken leadership.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid answer.
When I keep using this, that Trump said, that we have these threats. Okay, number one, the left has been calling Donald Trump and all Trump supporters threats to democracy for 8 years. Like, you've already labeled us threats. And also they take what Trump said about these people being threats completely out of context. Like when you go and you listen to the entire thing, he's talking about the violent mobs that burned down cities in the summer of 2020 and the complete civil unrest, the unprosecuted, unchecked crime that's going on in a lot of large cities and stuff. Like that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about the average Democrat voter being a threat.
No, yeah. It's pretty yeah. They basically take two different topics and they combine them when they report on it. So the one was like Maria Bartiromo asked him if he thought there was going to be violence after the election, and he says not from Trump supporters, but if there is, if they do start rioting in the streets, then yeah, like I'll call in the National Guard or something like that. So that was one. That's him using the military against the American people. He said he would stop riots. He wouldn't let 2020 essentially happen again. And then the other clip is completely unrelated, where he's talking about the enemy within. He's talking about Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and these people that are clearly like they instigated an actual coup. They removed Joe Biden essentially from the presidency and installed, or at least they are trying to install, Kamala Harris. And then if you just look back through the other people that have been just all these deep state actors, these unelected bureaucrats, the Russia collusion, all these things that Trump had been going through in his presidency. He's like, yeah, those are the enemies within. And they're literally prosecuting their political opponents as we speak. They're trying to throw him in prison for 70 years or something. Yeah, I don't think a lot of Americans have a problem with that being labeled the enemy within. It had nothing to do with the average American person, voter or whatever. He never said he was going to use the military against his political enemies. He said he would use like the National Guard or the military to put down a riot.
One and like that chick that was interviewing him and Jake Tapper that I'm about to play, like they keep trying to go back to Russia. How big of a threat Russia is. Like what's Russia gonna do? Like they're not invading the US. Like they make this such a big deal about the Russian threat. It's just insane. Here's Jake Tapper losing his shit when JD Vance body checks him into the board.
Yourself a basic question about network integrity. You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI was investigating it. So we recovered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again. A viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016. That was totally and preposterously false.
Now,
well, that's
what you just said is
why.
false. We covered an FBI investigation. I don't know why you want to talk about the FBI investigation.
You covered it in a way that gave credence to anonymous sources' accusations. You did it yourself. Your network did it, Jake. But again, can we talk about the issues that Americans care
I'm
most
talking about things that Donald Trump has said.
Yes.
If you have and whether or not he's talking about the economy enough, that's between you and running mate. I'm talking about things he said this week.
Every single rally that he does, he talks about how he wants to unleash American energy so we can lower the cost of groceries. He talks about the fact that housing has become unaffordable. He talks about the wide open border, Jake. Kamala Harris and her allies, you know, it's interesting. Kamala Harris and her media allies, and I would put CNN in this category. You guys, you guys seem to care.
I'll tell you that they would.
Well, they should watch your network more because you guys seem to care more about Donald Trump's past than the future of the American people. We're running this campaign on making the American dream.
I'm specifically asking about how Donald Trump is going to be president in the future should he win, and then we're being told
he's going to pursue economic policies that lower the cost of groceries and make life more affordable again. He talks about it every single day on the campaign trail, and so do I. What you're talking about is an anonymously sourced story, or one guy anonymously sourced, or who one guy who's a disgruntled employee. I told you five other people pushed back against him and said that what he said was dishonest. So why don't we talk about the policy that's affecting American citizens and not what Donald Trump allegedly said, according to one guy who's pissed off because he got fired by Donald Trump?
That was in regards to the like he wanted Hitler's generals or something. Is that what he was referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, again, dude, we kind of went over that on the last episode. But yeah, dude, I just think they don't have they are so out of touch with the average American that they think that this this talking point where it's just like, oh well, like he denied the election and the January 6th insurrection and he's a racist, he's Hitler. Yeah, that they've been saying that for fucking 10 years. We've already watched him govern for 4, and people then they watched Joe Biden do it for 4 years, and a lot of them yearn for the years of Trump. And I don't think they give a shit what he says at this point. I mean, like, how could you? He says all kinds of crazy things, bombastic things, hilarious things, but they don't care. Like, they're not usually taking him so literally. And yeah, I think it's a lot more reasonable for most people to look at him and be like, okay, well, here's what he did for 4 years. That's usually a pretty good indication of what they're going to do for the next 4 years. I know in the finance industry, we say past performance is no guarantee of future results. But it's like the idea that he's going to go from the way he did it for 4 years to the way Hitler did it at the end of his reign is pretty ridiculous. It's a pretty far-fetched scenario.
Well, and because the media does that and they paint everything like that, you end up getting a post like this from the Washington Post from owner Jeff Bezos. The hard truth, Americans don't trust the news media. Did you get a chance to read this?
I didn't see this. I saw that a lot of people were canceling their Washington Post subscriptions because they didn't endorse Kamala Harris.
Fuck, I'm about to renew mine.
I'm pretty sure it was the Washington. It's Bezos, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was the Washington Post because they didn't, or maybe they were like, so the thing that I saw was they're just not going to endorse the candidate, which is essentially endorsing Donald Trump, because I think they wanted to, you know, their editorial board or whatever wanted to endorse Kamala Harris, and Bezos said he put the kibosh on it, apparently. I don't know if there's any truth to that, or that's just sort of like a lefty talking point. But then like everyone just started posting like, oh, I'm canceling my subscription, blah, 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 blah. Just because they endorse your candidate.
Here's what he says specifically about presidential endorsements. He says presidential endorsements do nothing to tip the scale of an election. No undecided voters in Pennsylvania are going to say, I'm going with newspaper A's endorsement. None. What presidential endorsements actually do is create a perception of bias, a perception of non-independence. Ending them is a principled decision, and it's the right one. Eugene Meyer, publisher of the Washington Post from 1933 to 1946, thought the same thing, and he was right. By itself, declining to endorse presidential candidates is not enough to move us very far up the trust scale, but it's a meaningful step in the right direction. I wish we had made change earlier than we did, in a moment further from the election and the emotions around it. That was inadequate planning and not some intentional strategy. So, like, Bezos is saying, like, presidential endorsements don't do anything other than tell people that what your bias is. He's like, and if we're going to report the news in an unbiased way, when nobody trusts us, nobody believes any fucking thing we say, we have to remove ourselves from the appearance of bias. And he explains a lot of like the decisions that he's making in all of this, and how he is definitely a flawed person as far as being an owner of a newspaper goes. That some of the decisions that he has been making with the newspaper look bad because of the timing, but like the way he explains it, like he sees what's been happening with mainstream media and the news losing the trust and respect of the people, and he wants to address that. He's also said that he's going to actively start searching for and hiring conservative writers and stuff for the Washington Post.
Yeah. Well, it's a very fair point. I never understood why newspapers would endorse a candidate, but it might sort of be the canary in the coal mine. He's like, oh, I don't want to back this fucking losing horse anyway. Like that Kamala Harris just has no chance of winning. So why even subject ourselves to that kind of thing where it's just like, yeah, now you guys were biased for Kamala Harris. You endorsed her, even though it was completely pointless and she had no chance of winning. You still put yourself out there. So yeah, it's a smart move from him. It's pretty hilarious to watch all of the lefty people on Twitter lose their fucking mind. Mark Hamills of the world just be like, I'm canceling my subscription now. I think they lost 200,000 subscriptions, if that's accurate. But yeah, if he's trying to play the long game and sort of pivot to being an actual relatively unbiased news source, then yeah, you should not be endorsing candidates, and particularly ones that are getting that are just this bad. Oh my God, dude. I couldn't imagine endorsing Kamala Harris for anything, let alone president. I wouldn't let her run a fucking lemonade stand, dude. She's just awful. She's just awful. Could you imagine her having to make small talk with like if she was a bartender or something? She couldn't do it.
And not a lot of others are willing to endorse her either, considering all of the biggest unions didn't endorse. Washington Post didn't. There was another big newspaper that also declined to give any, like, they're not endorsing Trump. They're just declining to endorse Kamala Harris. That seems more damning.
Yeah. Well, dude, if they came out and endorsed Trump, that would be insane. Nobody's got the stones to really do that. But yeah, I mean, Kamala Harris is such a bad candidate, and it really does feel like she has, absent the enemy within interfering in the election, I don't see how she has a chance to win this, dude. It just does not look good. It doesn't feel right. That's why they're freaking out that they're not getting these usually the meaningless endorsements, and they're really up against it. These are cornered animals that are freaking out because the end is near.
So should we? I got to go pick up my truck. Should we do next week's episode on Wednesday instead of Tuesday, just to do a chaser on the election. There's a decent chance that we may not know anything definitively, but I would also say there's probably a pretty high probability we'll know Wednesday.
Yeah,
morning.
that's probably a good idea. I was thinking about maybe doing something for election night. I don't know.
I work, so I won't be able to.
Yeah, I was talking to Robbie the Fire. I was like, maybe we'll do a live stream or something. But then again, it's like, dude, these election nights are so long. I don't know if I have it in me. I don't know if I have it in me to do like a fucking 5-hour live stream. I'll see if he wants to do it. Maybe.
And I'll talk to some of the morning show guys. Some of them might be interested in it too. Jim and Jay usually are down for stuff like that. So you never know. I can buzz some other folks and see if anybody else, like Buck Johnson or somebody, like see if anybody else might want in on doing something like that. Because I mean, there's going to be plenty to talk about. It's going to be a wild night regardless. So it might be worth it. I'll be at work, so I can't.
Lucky. Yeah, I mean, like I'll be. I got a buddy here, but yeah, like we're both pretty interested in the election. Even though, dude, he's from Canada. He's probably Trump's biggest fan.
Have you seen the stuff about Canadian young males in Canada, like how they have swung to like Trump? It's pretty wild.
Yeah, well, because Canada's been worse in a lot of regards than even some of the wokest places in the U.S. So like they caught their limit.
Yeah.
Particularly during the 2020, 2021 fiasco. So yeah, we'll definitely be paying attention to it. What's funny is he was actually here the last election. This is like our anniversary. So yeah, we went to bed, a week ago, or a week in. So yeah, November 5th, 2020, he was here, and went to bed thinking Donald Trump had it in the bag. You wake up, and it turns out they just happened to find like a lot of votes at 4:00 in the morning, and the rest is history. So. We'll see what happens. I've been in Mexico for every Donald Trump election. I was actually here at the casino in 2016 when he won. It was like 3:00 in the morning when they declared him the winner. I was playing blackjack. So yeah, it'll be fun either way. But yeah, I'll see if I can put together a live stream or something with enough people to kind of carry the weight of the night. And we'll do a regular Friday show, I think, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then, yeah, we'll do a election recap or whatever. Probably maybe just one episode next week instead of two. Well, I guess it'll depend on whether or not we have the results on Wednesday. We might have to do a Friday episode once we figure out who they're going to declare the winner. So, yeah, until then. That's it. Yeah, that's it for me. You got anything else? No,
not right now.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you all so very much for listening. And until Friday, you guys know what to do. Just keep on peddling that so-called fiction. Peace.